Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is telling everyone, let's face it in therapy. By talking or texting with a supportive, licensed therapist at Talkspace, you can face whatever is holding you back, whether it's mental health symptoms, relationship drama, past trauma, bad habits, or another challenge that you need support to work through. It's easy to sign up. Just go to Talkspace.com and you'll be paired with a provider, typically within 48 hours. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule. Plus, Talkspace is in-network with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Make your mental health a priority and start today. If you're not covered by insurance, get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80.
Welcome to the Retreat Leaders Podcast, your sanctuary with retreat experts, where we spill the tea on retreat success. Here we dive into crafting transformational guest experiences, talk about how to avoid pitfalls, and unlock marketing secrets. Whether you're a seasoned guru or a budding enthusiast, we've got the inside scoop for you. Join us as we learn how to flourish in this magical world of retreats.
Welcome to the Retreat Leaders Podcast. This is Shannon, and I have got a guest for you guys today. Some of you may think, what in the world are they doing talking about this topic? But I'm just going to tell you it is a very important topic if you're a living human being, but also if you have a business that is super important as well. So I just want to welcome Oscar Vasquez to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Shannon, for having me and allowing me to be on your platform and bring awareness to the 68% of homeowners that are going to go to probate that don't have an estate plan.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Let's start off by first just telling us who you are and what you do.
Okay, I'll tell you, I'll give you a little bit of background. I've been in the real estate business for 28 years. I've been helping families protect their home for the last 15 years. I started off by referring them to legal firms and estate planning firms until I learned what a living trust, really comprehensive living trust entailed. And then we started a software company called Estate Doc Prep that makes living trust affordable for the masses.
I really think this is super important because we chatted just a tiny bit right before we started recording, and I mentioned that my husband and I went through all of this a couple of years ago. And depending on what your version is of affordable, I would say ours would not follow under that category of being quote unquote affordable. It was incredibly expensive. And so I'm really, really glad to hear that there is something in the middle that really can allow for people to be protected. So talk to me. Most of our listeners are retreat leaders. They are either just starting their business or they have an existing business and they might be adding retreats on. Talk to me about why it's even important to do this for themselves.
Well, I think one is, as a business owner in general, not just retreat leaders, but it's what it does. It protects and it leaves the legacy so your business lives on. Because one of the things that we don't do, and I guess the best way I can describe it is, I helped a gentleman, I sold him a bakery. We started an estate plan. And when he started to understand how important it was to him, right, to leave a business that still keeps on giving when he's gone, was when he realized how important standard operating procedures were, so people can take over when he's gone. And one of the things that he did, and this is mind blowing, because he would always complain about how his grandkids and his kids never wanted to participate in the business, but he left such detailed SOPs on how to make the bakery. Their bakery, I think this last time I spoke to them about 8 months ago, did almost $10 million. And it was a 800 square foot bakery, and now it's a
Wow.
factory, right?
Wow.
And I got to tell you, that story is, and that just goes to show you that being in the right hands. Well, there was three factors. One, he did really good SOPs. Two, he was very passionate, and three, he left them seed money, being key person insurance, to be able to hire somebody, because he said, I don't want the business sold. I want somebody to be hired that can make bread, that can make the business thrive further than I can. So at least my family can have continuous revenue. He just said, I just want them to eat. That's it. But little did he know that they built out a huge factory. They got a large distributions of Mexican bread routes all over these. I mean, it's an amazing story.
I love everything about that. What a beautiful story. And so let me ask you this, because also SOPs are super important. I'm finding that out now as we continue to grow and build and add on to our team. And if anybody wants to either sell their business in the future or pass their business on in the future, SOP and operating manuals are important. Is that something that's part of your software? Or is that something that they really need to put together on their own?
No, that's something that when he wanted to create the legacy, when we sat down and we talked, I've owned I'm 53 years old. I've owned probably about 15 different businesses, and I've exited out of 4. And the ones that I exited, the main value that was given to those valuations that was given to the business was the standard operating procedures and the client acquisitions. And so I just told him that, listen, pretend that the person that's going to run the business knows nothing, and document everything. Like and he goes, well, I can't write. And I said, just make sure like a 3-year-old. And so what he did is he created YouTube videos. That's his SOPs. How funny is that? He couldn't write, and he goes, what do you do? So I got him a tripod and a camera that goes on the tripod and a remote, and you just sit. I said, pretend you're talking to your kids on the thing, and that was his SOPs that he left on how to cook the bread and how he does that. And he talked a lot about philosophies, his philosophy, and how to treat people. And I know that he's not the easiest man, but we don't create that. But we became really good friends after he got the trust. And he always talked about what his dream was and what he wanted. And I gotta tell you, and I get chills every time I talk about it, because his dream was to see his bakery flourish and have his kids just like live beyond the wildest dreams. I mean, it's amazing in the right hands, and the motivation, and I think there was 3 elements. I think it was, one, the passion that they saw in the videos that he left on for the business, because they saw a different side of him then, because he was like always enthusiastic. He was always, and they always had a conception of him that he was always a grinder. He was always, like, do this, you're doing it wrong. But when he was there, it was him, right? It was that's who I knew, right? But he left a portion, and the living trust. You go back. I don't want to get too deep into this story, but it's a fascinating story for business owners, because when you have a living trust, every living trust is the same in every state when it has the legal provisions, if they're a comprehensive living trust. Okay, first of all, the legal, and I get like this because it's the legal portions. The difference is the name, which is the trustee, which is usually the parents, the name of the kids, the instructions that you leave to your kids when you pass, and the assets you put in. Those are the 4 things that are different, that makes your trust unique. The legal provisions need to be comprehensive, right? And what I mean by comprehensive, they need to be complete. So that way you avoid taxes. You don't have any estate taxes. You don't have any capital gains. You don't have any probate hearings. All of these provisions need to be in there to prevent that from happening. And then it's your name and it's a contract. So a living trust is a contract between you and your kids on what you want to have happen to the things when you die. And when I explained that to him, like he goes, well, what are the limitations? I said, the limitations are based on your imagination. And I said, since we're not going to write any of this, we're just going to attach the link. He got really good before he got sick, right? He got really good. And he started really knocking them out of the park. So,
Awesome.
But that's what a living trust is, though. In essence, in a nutshell, in layman's terms, that's what it is. And that's why a software, now every state has different provisions. That's it. They're for the state. They're not local. They're not city. It's statewide.
Hey, it's Shannon here. I'm just popping in really quickly to ask a big favor. Would you pause the show and go review it for us? Please. Reviews really help us to be able to get more guests and more experts on the show to help you transform your retreats. So if you wouldn't mind pausing and leaving us a review, that would mean everything. And if you're not already subscribed, do that too.
I love this. Let me ask you this. If someone wants to, two things. If someone wants to work with an actual person, do you still help people directly, not just your software?
Yeah. No, it gets, because there's three ways to get a living trust. Okay. One is get a living trust through an attorney, which that can cost anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000. And then every time you want to change, it's anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000, depending on how much that changes. The second way is to get a software and just do it on your own. And I always tell people the statistics are that 95% of the people that started on their own don't finish it because there's a lot of questions that go unanswered, and then you'll do it tomorrow. And we all know that tomorrow will never get here, right?
Right.
And what we do is we're in the middle. And we're in the middle because we're not $5,000. We're our retail price is a fraction of that. But what we do is we get on the call minimum 3 times with you on the software. So one, we give you bite sizes that is manageable. And then we handle the learning curve. What I mean by that, the learning curve is that we say, just do this section and this is what this means. And then the next time we meet is we go through all the provisions and the choices that you have. Like, for example, like what? Like, for example, do you want your spouse to make changes to the beneficiaries when you pass, right? Never had a mother say, yeah, he can, right? It's, you know what? It's our kids. And I say like jokingly, but I had one person say it. She said, no, he's not going to, no changes because he's going to get remarried and my kids are going to get disinherited accidentally. And I help get this house together. So no changes. I said, well, what do you want to do, Bill? Goes, yeah, just do what she says. Right?
That's awesome.
Smart man. I said, I've been married 30 years, Bill. That's a good move. Anyways, so that's one provision. And you put that on there, right? And then they go like, what does this say? What does this mean? And then we go in and we tell you stories. This is what this means. And then they're just yes, no questions. Is this what you want? Or these are the things that you want. But we go through them with you, right? Which is super important. And then we say like, what that is. And what happens, it stimulates your mind to think. And I always say, listen, don't think quickly. Even though you have unlimited changes, take this thought, dig deep spiritually, pray on it, talk to your partner. You guys think about this and then come back and push the button. You can come back and redo it. With our software, there's unlimited changes for the rest of your life. The younger you are, the thicker your trust will be, because what we found is that when you have a trust, your mind is stimulated and you start thinking of special gifts and things that you want to have happen with your kids. I'll give you an example. We had a young couple started about 5 years ago. They now have a trust that is going to become, they're starting to put money in the trust that's going to be education for their grandkids. They don't have grandkids yet, but they're putting away. They're saying we're going to save a total of like what if I save $5,000 now, how much would that be in 20 years? And I gave them a plan. This is what it looks. Oh my God. Like, you ever heard like that penny that doubles every day?
Oh, yeah.
That same analogy, we show them. They're like, oh my God. And I said, here's the thing. You're sitting under a tree today from somebody that planted it 50 to 100 years ago. That means that tree gives shade for the rest of their life. And when they got that, they're like, we want to start doing, you know what? It's not going to be a lot. How do we do it? We put it into, it's called a fixed index annuity because it lives forever, right? So anyways, so they started to do that. And now they're changing the trajectory of their grandkids' life. And that didn't happen to like after 5 years of the trust. And I said, let me ask you a question. Why? She goes, you know what? We talk about, now that we have the trust, we talk about that now. That's something that because what you told us, that it's a living trust. And because we have unlimited changes, we just have to pay a notary. Man, we're going to go to town. I said, you should. I said, most people don't make changes because of the exorbitant amount of cost that's involved. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
So, and I mean, hey, listen, we should all have it, but, and I think look, even if an attorney charges you 10 grand, like in California, but if you're going to pay 80,000 today, if you died, no, watch, that's today. Probate court and everything else is going to go up tomorrow. It doesn't stay the same. Everything does. So I always tell people, it's still a good deal. Not having one is the worst deal, because imagine losing $80,000 of your kid's inheritance because you failed to have a living trust. But back to the business. I don't want to get off track there, but I wanted you to understand that the limitations. So one of the misconceptions is what are the limitations between you and your kids? And here's the limitations. It's only limited to the imagination of the instructions you're willing to write. That's it.
That's great.
You could put no restriction. I'll give you, there's one aha that I think throughout all of them that I saw it was a teacher. I work a lot with teachers. That's why I use them as examples, because I do a lot with the education system. She had a child that was back east. I'm in California, but back east, and he was going through an opioid addiction through pills, right? And alcoholism. And he's been sober for 5 years. And she said, one of the things, the provisions that can I put it in? I said, you can do whatever you want, put in but tell me what you want, and I'll kind of help you write it, or you write the instructions. The instruction was that she wanted him drug tested. One, she didn't want all of the inheritance to go to him at once, because she wanted to make sure that he had money for the rest of his life. One. Two, she wanted to make sure that his kids saw some of the money, right? And three, she wanted to make sure that he was sober. And so every month he had to submit, that she paid for. She allocated that amount, paid for a drug test, an alcohol test, and hair particle tests. I think it was 3 tests every month, and she would get the money. And I, when I first saw that, I said, can we do that? I said, yeah, you could do whatever you want, but why? And she says, Oscar, I am his mother, and he is going to be sober, whether I'm dead or alive, and he's not going to use drugs with my money. And I said, okay, that's pretty simple.
Hey guys, it's Shannon. If you've been dreaming about hosting retreats or taking your existing retreats to the next level, let's make it happen together. Join me August 22nd through 24th for an unforgettable retreat leader mastermind experience. It's going to be located on my ranch in the beautiful Texas Hill Country. Here's what you'll get when you hang out with me and an amazing group of like-minded leaders. Learn my top strategies for marketing, business operations, and selling out your retreats. Connect with other passionate retreat leaders in a high-vibe, supportive circle. Recharge, relax, refresh, and soak up all the inspiration our ranch and our staff have to offer, because you deserve it. This isn't just another workshop. It's a chance to step fully into your role as a heart-centered leader while building a business that thrives. I'll be right there with you, sharing everything I've learned from the years of hosting retreats and running my own venue. Spots are super limited, so grab yours now at profitwithpurposemastermind.com. Let's create retreats that transform lives, starting with yours. That's profitwithpurposemastermind.com. I can't wait to see you there.
Right?
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that you can go in there and put, specific things in that. That makes sense. And that way it's clear and there's no, miscommunication. We don't have a whole lot of time, but I want to touch on just real quickly. You mentioned probate. You mentioned like the mistake. Tell me, just make it real clear. What happens if you have nothing? Like you just pass on and you've got a business and a home and assets and you did nothing.
Okay, so before you go, first you got to know who goes to probate. On Google, right? My niece says the two smartest people, Google and YouTube. They know everything, depending on the source. But you Google, what is the threshold to go to probate in my state? In California, it's 184.5. In Utah, it's 100,000. In Colorado, it's 60,000. And in Indiana, it's 50,000. Every state has a threshold. If you own a home, you're going to go to probate. One. So what happens in probate? One, you have to pay the attorney up to 6 to 8%. Two, it becomes public, which exposes you to be able to get scammers to scam your children. I know that I thought it was just my children that are naive to and gullible to stuff like that. I mean, but no, I think it's that whole generation is. And then the third thing is the judge decides on what happens to your inheritance. If you don't have the judge makes the final decision, and it could not be in the favor of the children, depending on what happens, right? Where the situation is. The fourth thing is they have to wait 12 to 18 months to be able to get the money after the court is settled. And the most important thing of all is that they could have tax consequences for not having a living trust. And I tell people that even if all of that wasn't existent and they just had to pay the attorney, it's worth having a living trust, because I've never had anybody have a living trust and say, I'm not happy. Oh, you know what? I feel like this was a waste of money. Even the people that have paid enormous amounts with attorneys. The only difference is that the people that use attorneys, they can't customize it because it becomes expensive, right? I mean, you do a change
That
every
makes
3
sense.
years, it's $3,000, $4,000. And then,
Yeah.
and then you start going like, man, is that really that important? Well, it's not that important for $3,000, right? You do that
So then
4
you're not
times.
doing,
Yeah.
then you're not doing the things that you really want to do because you don't want to pay that money. So,
Well,
I'm
because
going
of
to,
affordability.
yes, it is. It does come down to affordability. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Well, I'm going to have your information in our show notes, but could you also tell us just what your website is or how people can find you?
Yes, I want to give you 2 gifts. One is a discount code, which is going to be mind and body. We'll put it on there, and that's a discount code that you'll be able to get. The first 10 people that's listening to get it, they'll get it at $1,400. And we do have payment plans available. If $1,400 is it's not feasible for you, we want you to get your trust. We'll come up with a payment plan for you. 2, we have a state doc prep /guide. That's a comprehensive estate guide. And I created that state guide for one simple reason, that it helps prevent the human element of delay, because there's questions that you never thought about that you would have to decide on when end of life comes. Now, there's 19 documents that come with the comprehensive living trust. They're not all pertinent to everybody, but I want you to know this: not all living trusts are created equal. Do yourself a favor, do your homework, check us out. Ours is comprehensive. It works in all 50 states. And to protect your business, protect your, I wish we had more time, we could have dove more into that, but Your business has value. It has value. The value's in the database. It's in the people that you know, one, and your clients, but the database. And two, yesterday is too late to protect. Tomorrow's not promised. Today is the day that you need to take action. So thank you very much for having me, Shannon. And
yes, thank you.
I wish we had more time to bring you more. There's so much to know about estate planning, especially for business owners. But it's really, really important. It's definitely an important element.
I love it. I will link all of that in the show notes, including the discount code. And it looks like we might have to have you back on so we can get a little deeper into this. So thank you so much, Oscar. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Retreat Leaders Podcast. Learn more at www.theretreatranch.com. See you next time.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is telling everyone, let's face it in therapy. By talking or texting with a supportive, licensed therapist at Talkspace, you can face whatever is holding you back, whether it's mental health symptoms, relationship drama, past trauma, bad habits, or another challenge that you need support to work through. It's easy to sign up. Just go to Talkspace.com and you'll be paired with a provider, typically within 48 hours. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule. Plus, Talkspace is in-network with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. Make your mental health a priority and start today. If you're not covered by insurance, get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and enter promo code SPACE80.